I'm Aria Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. WNBA All-Star Weekend is in the rear view. While All-Star Game was the reason everybody was in Indiana, the weekend was taken over by Studbudz and the player statements about the CBA negotiations. With gameplay back on, we have lots to discuss, so let's cut to the basket. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. That's patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content on winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. Also, cannot stress this enough, make sure you are checking out our expanded content on the variety of social media platforms. Make sure you're following Winsidr on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. And do you like wearing your WNBA fandom? Well, take a look at the show notes for affiliate links to get all the top WNBA merch outlets directly to you. You get to rock the W while helping Winsidr. I'm talking Fanatics, Breaking Tea, and Homage. Please check it out. All right, welcome back to the show. Excited to be here. Rachel, feels like this is the first time you have been on American soil for more than like 4 days, 4-day stretch. All-Star Game is behind us. Just to recap real quick, Nafisa Collier scores a All-Star Game record 36 points, knocked down a couple of 4-pointers. Skylar had the first ever All-Star Game triple-double. Team Fee, who seemed to be partying more throughout the weekend, blew Clark's team out. CBA, like there was two CBA meetings. One meeting the players came out of saying basically they spent 45 minutes of the hour and a half or whatever, doing pleasantries and introductions and get to know you games. And we're very, very upset. Like the frustration you can see is continuing to grow and grow and almost boil over. At the end of the All-Star Game, there's multiple players, fans in attendance also, who were holding signs saying, "Pay us what you owe us." They were wearing shirts at warm-ups. It's only going to get crazier. Like, let me make that clear. We can dive into our thoughts on the CBA real quickly if you'd like. And then Studbudz did a 72-hour live stream, Courtney Williams and Atisha Heidman, where they showed the family of the W. They showed, it was absurd. It was ridiculous. They just showed the camaraderie and the love that the W has for each other. Forget all the outside noise. Yes, there's people who dislike each other. If you have 156 colleagues, yeah, you're not going to get along with everybody. But overall, the W is a family. It was an amazing weekend. And then also, like, the coolest thing too is to get a glimpse into that world behind the scenes that normally the fans don't get. That's my opening monologue rant. Rachel, before we dive into the actual basketball, any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know my take on All-Star. It's for the fans. It's fun. It's camaraderie. Like I'll be honest, I don't really watch a whole lot. We haven't even been in a while. It's been a minute since we've gone to an All-Star. We need to change that. I openly know that.
Next year.
Yeah, definitely. I miss it. Yeah. But I mean, it's fun. It's whatever. I thought the skills challenge, was interesting. Sabrina did a great job at the 3-point contest. I mean, obviously Studbudz stole the show. I mean, it literally stole the show, was the show. So it was fun to kind of follow the banter and follow along with that a little bit. I definitely don't do Twitch or anything like that, but I did see the stuff on social media. So a lot of laughs, just incredible. Like that platform and all of that was like just how big it got. I hope it's something that can continue and some really positive things can come from that for them in particular. But yeah, I mean, it's a good time to have a little bit of a break of a season. That's kind of how I ended up approaching it, to be completely honest.
CBA, we could get into a whole thing that would probably take up far too much.
I do hear your thoughts. I mean, it definitely, like, I think this happens every time there's a CBA where it feels like there's like a huge gaping gap between the two parties. So it's kind of hard for me to get a pulse on, like, is this as concerning as it seems like it could be? I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth and back and forth. Obviously, the WNBA players have never had such a leverage point, right? The W's never been this big. They've never had all this going on. On the flip side, the NBA continues to grow its foothold on ownership of the league, and like is a holdout. What do they call it? Holdout, whatever it is. Forget what the exact term is. A holdout where the players don't play. Is that the most like that's the ultimate card that the players can play, right? We're not going to play if you don't agree to these terms. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, so like I kind of look at it as extremes of okay, that's what the players can do. The owners can just be like, we don't care. Like, and that's one of the reasons I'm super against NBA ownership over the W is they have invested interest in competitors, so they're not necessarily as concerned about a season off. Hey, we're already making money in the NBA, so on and so forth. Could dive in and dissect that. So I think look, a record-breaking TV rights deal was signed. There's tons more money coming in. We know the WNBA players are getting around 9% or so of the revenue share, where NBA players are getting around 50% or so. If you just, take that 9% up to 25%, up to 30%, we're talking about, double, tripling the WNBA salary cap. We're talking about these players not necessarily having to go overseas. It would do a lot of difference. I don't know, like, we don't know the books. So like, there's so much.
That's my point is like, and then I also get annoyed with all these sports talking heads that come in and want to chime in about the WNBA and, they haven't been profitable. Like, you actually have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, you don't follow the league. We don't know the numbers. There's no transparency about the numbers. We don't even know like who's calling the shots. That's what makes it really difficult. I mean, I know everybody like wants to talk about Kathy. I don't think Kathy has honestly, in my opinion, a whole lot of say when it comes to, some of these decisions with this next CBA. That's just my own personal belief. But like clearly there's a huge discrepancy, and clearly like logic would tell you the league has turned a corner and been making profit, and the players are not getting their fair percentage. I mean, like if you just like think about it, at least we can agree on that. Like that they deserve to be paid a higher percentage than what they're getting. And you cannot tell me that the league is like flailing and struggling. Like I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So like I wish we had transparency in the numbers. That's what makes this so completely difficult to even have discussions about. And I'm sure, the Players Association, I know they know a hell of a lot more than we do. That's for sure. So I stand by them and like whatever it's going to take, to figure this out and to get the NBA, whoever it is that's going to, I don't know. It's frustrating. Yeah. It's frustrating because we're trying to analyze it and be like, what's the right word? We're trying to analyze it and we're trying to like really like understand what's happening here, but how can we? Because we don't know anything when it comes to how the league is doing right now. It's really difficult.
The only thing we know is public accessible data. That is actual publicly accessible data. And that data is the new TV rights deal. We know that amount split up over however many years. And we know that is, tenfold more than what it was before. So right off the bat, off of that, we also know that WNBA teams,
expansion teams, are paying $250 million to have a team.
Which, okay. And then we also know that from, anecdotally, but we know this for a fact, that every WNBA team across the league is charging more per ticket sales. We know merch sales are going up because we see the variety of things like that. So we know every possible metric that we do know. And that's why it's so hard when these people who don't know anything are quoting the NBA, who openly says they don't invest in the W, claims that, they cover any losses. Well, I've spoken to WNBA owners who say, well, they cover losses if it gets to that point. But if our team is losing money, we covered the losses for our team. So it never gets to the point of getting to the league. There's a lot of disingenuous comments that are put out there to make. And at the end of the day, I think too many people become NBA versus WNBA, the NBA says this, we can trust it. Nobody trusts a professional sports league when they're telling you that we're making less money, we're making this money or what. This is a large corporation that wants to make as much money as possible. And what's one of the things that makes it so they make less money? Having to pay their employees more. This is like classic business. Okay. The company wants to make more money. They want to pay their employees less. So obviously we can't trust the employer to tell us. So either show us the books or shut up is my take. There's a lot of people who don't know anything, who know less than us, who, parachute in and want to talk about the W now because they realize that it's a talking point, topic, whatever. And they sound like fools. But let's talk about the W. Let's talk about what we've seen so far coming out of the break. Rachel, I know you were paying attention to a couple games last night, wherever. I have no idea what day it is now. But kind of real quickly, the headlines, then we'll break down. The headlines coming out of the break into the second half of the season. Jonquel Jones is healthy. She brought some Liberty staff to the Bahamas to train during the break. So back in the starting lineup, they're 8-0 when they have their actual starting lineup together. Emma Miesemann, the overseas star, the finals MVP, the WNBA champion, one of the best players in the world. Reports have come out that has been confirmed by my podcast co-host that Emma has picked New York Liberty. She's not there yet, working on visa stuff, expected over the next week and a half or so. The Aces win their third straight, first game back from the break. Minnesota destroyed Chicago by 24 without Atkins, but Natisha Heidemann does get hurt, her ankle. So obviously some question of depth. Atlanta has some back-to-backs. They lose to the Aces and they beat the Mercury and BG's return. And our good friend Latricia Trammell is back in LA officially as an advisor to the Sparks coaching staff. Okay. Rachel, second half of the season, the playoff push. You watched some games the other night. What are you looking for at this stage of the season when you pay attention to games?
I mean, we're now obviously past the point where, we spend the first month being like, oh, I want to see more. I want to see more. I want to see more. Okay, we're here. And I feel like it's a turning point for maybe some teams. There's been so much inconsistency so far this season. And a lot of that has to do with injuries. A lot of that has to do with just inconsistent play. I wonder if sometimes there's a switch that goes off, post All-Star break, where everything just gets ramped up a little bit more. Practices get ramped up, the lock-in gets ramped up. You kind of can't help but ask that question. I don't know. I always like to pay attention to who's peaking at the right time. I mean, obviously, I think we can look at the Phoenix Mercury, and they're an interesting one because they played really well early on when they didn't really have many of their stars, and then they start. They're winning games. They're finding ways. They're starting to get healthy. And then they add a huge piece in Dwana Bonner. They lost a couple in a row. I think it's safe to say, we haven't had a lot of consistency there with Phoenix. What is the ceiling of that team? I don't know. And I saw, an interview with Dwana Bonner after, and she's just be patient with us. It's going to take some time. And we asked that question, Phoenix is dangerous. I think we all know that. But could they also just flail the second half of the season too? Mm-hmm. I think it's entirely possible. That's a complete unknown. New York Liberty, I mean, it's kind of just been they kind of flailed a little bit. They're 6-4. They've won 4 in a row. It's always going to come down to them just getting healthy. And Jonquel Jones is the X factor with that team. When she's in the rotation, when she's impacting the game on both ends of the floor, offensively, defensively, everything gets ramped up to another level with the Liberty. I mean, everybody else plays that much better with Jonquel Jones on the floor. And I think that was very obvious the other night. They're a dangerous team to me. They look really, really good right now. Can they stay healthy? But then also, when Emma Miesemann comes over, how does that type of dynamic, how does that adapt? How does that team, in the middle of the season in August, get a former MVP, finals MVP thrown into the equation? What does that look like? What kind of role does that look like? So there's a lot of questions with that. The question is, who's going to start peaking and playing their best basketball consistently at the right time? I think Minnesota, yeah, okay, they're at the top of the standings. They're ahead 3.5 games. Still some question marks there from a depth perspective, like
Big
the
time.
shooting perspective. Like you feel like the margin of error there, like, I don't know, that's concerning to me, Minnesota. Okay, one I got to talk about because just the other night was just unbelievably atrocious was the Seattle Storm.
I was waiting for this.
That was like this is harsh, but that was like appalling. And again, maybe it's just like one of those games, you chalk it up, you're frustrated, Dallas was hitting shots, everything's going right. Nothing's going right for you. They don't have Skylar Diggins in the rotation. Clearly, to see Nneka Ogwumike that frustrated in that series of events was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I kind of wondered, I was like, okay, maybe she makes a play like that and she shows this emotion and she's like, and she's trying to get her team riled up. Well, like no one responded after that. So I don't know what to make of that out of Seattle. That was very bizarre to me because that's been a team that I've been really high on. And maybe I need to kind of check myself a little bit because they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. And it's kind of like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that was. It doesn't seem, I was thinking they looked close and they were like clicking and like things, the chemistry and everything was really good. Now I'm questioning that. Atlanta Dream, still a lot of question marks there. They can look really good at times and then they can look not so good at times. The biggest one right now, I think that kind of has my attention is the Aces. What's the ceiling with this team? Asia Wilson's averaging like 31.5 points per game, like shooting 60% from the floor. She's been on an absolute tear these last few games. Like, can Vegas go on a run here? Do they have what it takes to go on a run here? Or are we just kind of, accepting the fact that they're this like middle of the pack team? So anyway, I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I definitely it's going to come down to health. Can Caitlin Clark be healthy for the Fever? Can the Fever do anything this season? Is that even like?
Am I out of hand to say like no? The Fever season. Like, here's the thing.
I don't know, man.
I think we're at the stage, in my opinion at least, we're at the stage where we've solidified, like you were saying, we solidified our opinions about these teams. We know Minnesota. We've not seen their best from it. They have a lot of questions. Same with New York. We haven't seen their best. The main question is health of JJ, and then how do they integrate Emma? With Phoenix, it's, are they running on fumes? Are they going to crash and burn because they have been out kicking the coverage? Yes, they added somebody, but does that just ruin it? Then there's the team. So those are like the contenders, right? Then there's the teams.
It's a 2-horse race. I think it's a 2-horse race right now.
I think it's a 2-horse race, but I think Phoenix has the ability, if they have what I'm trying to say is then there's those teams, and maybe Phoenix more for you falls into this category. There's those teams that they can get hot at a moment and they have the skill on the roster to make a deep playoff run. They have the skill on the roster to make Phoenix, fine. You can make a finals run with that roster if they're healthy. I have questions and we can talk about it, even though they've, been playing great. Fine. Seattle, there's no question that roster can make a playoff run. And if well led and everyone's playing, fairly well, Seattle has the roster talent to be a champion. And so there's other teams too. And so Vegas, I feel like, is one of those teams that they could, if they catch fire at the right time. Maybe it's only, I keep thinking about the Chicago Sky that what were they, 15-15 that year, or 16-16?
Or that Atlanta Dream run. The Chicago Sky made that run, went and won a championship. That was, you're right.
Wild.
Who has the potential to do that? Obviously, I don't know. I haven't seen enough out of any of those teams that we just mentioned so far. The only one that maybe has my attention, maybe, is the Las Vegas Aces, and that's only because they have the best player in the world.
Exactly. It's literally because they have Asia Wilson. No, totally. And something else that I find very interesting that we're going to learn a lot about as this season goes on for the second half of the season, remaining strength of schedule. Minnesota has the second toughest schedule for the remaining part of the season. Of those teams that we think matter, Vegas is number 4, Seattle number 9, New York 11, Atlanta 12, Phoenix 13. So those are for me, it's Minnesota and New York are the front runners, 2-horse race. Can't wait to see them have that mini in-season playoff series that we're about to see in starting in a week or so. But then you have Phoenix, okay, maybe they could do it. Seattle and Atlanta and Vegas are those other teams. Indiana, I'm at the point where I'm like, we can call this a wash of a season. There's been so much health things. And sorry, maybe that's I'm using a term that people are going to be like, means something crazy that I don't there was high expectations for this team to make a deep playoff run. And honestly, definitely too high. But honestly, Rachel, is this that different from what we've seen from Indiana over the past the past 10 years, where every once in a while they have a good end to a season. The next season, there's high expectations. They flutter in the beginning, and then they the second half of the season, they grow a little bit and you get excited that but then the next season they drop again. So I've yet to see anything that makes me feel like this. Yes, the roster is much better. Yes, I have a little bit more confidence in the coach. But at the end of the day, they're kind of repeating history. I'm looking more so at Atlanta, Vegas, Seattle as teams that if they get everything and catch fire, can run a championship run. Realistically, at least as of today. That's
I'm trying to think to myself, can Indiana go on a run? I guess it's possible. I guess, but I just, again, you have a player like Caitlin Clark, who's the head of this organization, and you're floor general, floor leader, whatever, and she's missed half the season. Again, the team at this point has almost become a different type of team because they've learned to play and win games and be competitive in games without her. When and if she can be consistently healthy back in the rotation, again, it's almost like you're readapting and how you're playing together in some ways, And so I don't know. It's like two completely different teams, I guess, is kind of how I look at it, because of there's Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark playing and healthy. Keep asterisk with healthy, which we've maybe seen a handful of those games. And then there's the Indiana Fever, just without her. So I guess, in my opinion, I'm looking at the Indiana Fever without her, because that's in kind of, even some of the games she's played, she hasn't seemed like she's been 100%, at least recently. So it's just interesting. It's hard. The Fever are a hard one, and we've been saying this for 2 months now. It's just inconsistency because of the injuries with Clark. So I don't know. I guess if they could get 100% healthy and we could see this team at full strength. I think we've maybe seen one game where they're when they beat New York, it was wow, okay, they're pretty good, but that's one game. So I don't know. They're interesting. I guess it is possible, but I don't know, man. I'm starting to kind of just, again, I'm not tossing the season out. I think the expectations, I'll never forget looking at one of the sports books, and it was oh, well, the Fever win 30 games this year. And I was this is insane. The expectation was way too unrealistic from some people for the Fever going into this season. They literally just made the playoffs for the first time in a decade last year. So let's again, there's levels to this. There's steps to this. If they can be a playoff team and, maybe win a series, okay, that's still growth for this franchise, in my opinion.
No, definitely. Look, they are not, it's not about winning this year for Indiana. There's so much more growth that they can do. They just need to be taking steps in the right direction. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't see them as a team that even if they catch fire, there's still huge holes in this team. And honestly, they don't have the experience as a whole roster to have the confidence in those big moments. I don't see them that far distant from a Mystics, a Valkyrie, a Sparks.
Yeah.
Because those are teams that are putting in the effort. Those are teams that are not going to give up. Those are teams that have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but lack in other ways, in serious ways. Fine. Something really interesting, just going over, look, Minnesota with a 3.5 game lead over New York in the standings. In the advanced stats, in the overall, in the net rating, Minnesota at 13.1, New York at 10.1 for second. Then the Atlanta Dream is the next team with a 5.7. So that's that gap that you were talking about, Rachel, it being a 2-horse race. Again, we're talking about a huge gap in the offensive rating. It's Minnesota by 0.1 above New York. And then the defensive rating, 2.9 above New York in defense rating for Minnesota. So it's just neck and neck. And New York, we haven't seen their best basketball yet. So I think that's the concern. Minnesota has health issues. They still need to add somebody with Peely. waived before the halfway mark seems to be a sign that either they wanted some flexibility and make another move, and or they thought they were going to get Emma, and that did not pan out. So obviously, look, Minnesota, we haven't seen their best basketball. They're in first place. They've been in first place for most of the season, if not all of the season.
Yeah.
New York is on their tail. Like, there's no question. They are right behind them, if not neck and neck. The real question that I've been keeping my eye out for is, what is that move Minnesota's going to do? You know, this is not a done roster. You know, Cheryl Reeve is going to try and pull something out of her sleeve, find a way to get some experienced overseas talent, somebody to give them that oomph off the bench. Because right now, especially with Natisha Heidemann injured, there is essentially, it's Diamond Miller, it's Masha, and Kosu. Like, that's literally their bench currently. That is not enough. That's not enough to play multiple games, nonetheless, do a deep playoff run. I'm sorry. You need more bench play. So definitely a huge, huge concern. Everyone's got questions. There's no team that hasn't set.
Let's look. This is when it gets really good. I mean, this is when you really can, start to lock in, and we know these teams. We know kind of the narratives that have been going on. So I'm really excited. I mean, obviously, big win from Atlanta over Phoenix. Atlanta's an interesting one. Still very much trying to figure out that team, as I mentioned before. What other games we got coming up tonight? Sparks,
Fever, Vegas.
Fever in Vegas. Seattle and Chicago. Yeah, I mean, and then what else we got coming up on Friday? Phoenix, New York, Vegas, Minnesota. That could be an interesting.
Vegas, Minnesota will be fun. That will be interesting. I feel like they're going to show up for that.
If Vegas can win tonight and go on a little run here and beat Minnesota, that head-to-head, Fee and Asia Wilson, that game has potential to start turning some heads here and maybe just making a note. And also, Phoenix, New York. I mean, how does Phoenix respond? And do they start clicking? And where do they measure up to with a team like New York right now? So Dallas Wings picked up a win.
Trying to find some positive there for them. I hear you. No, I think those are definitely the two big games, though, right? Liberty, Mercury, Aces, Lynx. Those are huge games.
Let me just mention the Sparks won 3 games in a row.
True.
we haven't. I feel like we just haven't talked about the Sparks at all.
I think they're not relevant right now. They have floundered, right? They made must-win moves. They didn't work. This is a repeated issue for the LA Sparks. There seems to be a disconnect between ownership, because here's the thing: at the end of the day, ownership is giving the marching orders to everyone below. So to me, there's a clear disconnect between ownership. We saw the disconnect, in my opinion, with those Magic Johnson tweets. But there's a huge disconnect between ownership and reality of where the W and where the Sparks are right now. And they really fumbled the snap on what was about to be a easy transition to a rebound, to a growth into an actual contention team, because you had a knockout of the park draft just last year. You have one of those stars coming back from injury. You would have had a top pick. You could have had Malunga, or you could have had Citrone. You could have had all these players. So you really fumbled what was handed to you. And now next year, you have 1 or 2 less top draft picks that are cornerstones to build on. So, I mean, I'd say that they're just irrelevant to talk about right now, personally.
Well, and I would be interested to see, what's the status on Cameron Brink?
Expected back by the end of July. So that's in the next couple of days?
That's actually, that's something fun and exciting to look forward to. I mean, goodness. That talk about a shot in the arm for a franchise that needs something to talk about right now, in my opinion. The other big story here for the Chicago Sky fans is there's a wall built of the practice facility.
I forgot about that. Yeah, they got a wall with some holes in the wall for windows. Oh my God! Was it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that they said that they were starting? It was before. It was before they drafted Angel Reese.
Was that what it was?
It was I feel like it was the summer before they drafted Angel Reese.
Well, the funny thing is like the wall, the photo. I'm sorry, I'm not able to give credit to the reporter who had mentioned that, but I just saw it on social media, and it's like, yeah, expected the exterior expected to be done mid-August, and someone made a comment and goes, "As in 3 weeks from now." It was so funny; it made me laugh. The exterior is expected to be.
Well, they're only going to have one wall. It's going to be an outdoor court with one wall, Rachel. Also, Portland Fire, they announced that their name is the Fire. Going back to that name, cool. I'm all for it if we can.
We got a name.
We got a name, and they surpassed 12,500 season ticket holders. So that is really cool. Look, especially in your opening season, you live and die off those season tickets. Because, like, when we were talking about Golden State, if not even all their season ticket holders show up to a game, they're already surpassing the majority of teams in this league's max capacity for their arena. So really great opportunity there. Hopefully that can be done well. Yeah, I haven't even seen if Toronto has. I'm sure Toronto's doing good too. They seem to at least be building out a staff and focusing on the expansion draft right now, which is really cool.
All right. Yeah, you see a lot more out of Toronto, that is for damn sure. But it will be interesting to keep a pulse on the expansion franchises and what kind of progress Portland can make over here over the next couple of months. But
Can I ask you
what?
No, I just have one question for you, because we'll do a whole episode where we dive into Rookie of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, like an actual whatever. But I'm curious for you, Coach of the Year. When I say that, just shout out a couple names that come to mind. Obviously, look, Cheryl Reeve is going to get her Cheryl Reeve credit. I don't know necessarily if that is above and beyond clearly the Coach of the Year this year. She's going to be in the conversation. Tibbs probably from Phoenix. Who else?
I mean, maybe Natalie, Golden State.
I was going to say, yeah, that's got it. To me, those are like the names.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right now, again, I think it's a 2-horse race. Like, I don't know. I mean, again, I think Golden State, like, it's worth mentioning Natalie, but like, how do I give that to them over like the two best teams who have been really, really good? Now, again, I mean, I don't think it's a clear winner right now at all. I think it's still, maybe between those 4 or 5 names. I can't really, I mean, I guess at one point people were mentioning Carl Smesko. If Atlanta can get going here and get some momentum and stuff and play really well, like, I think he could be potentially in the conversation, but they've kind of just flailed a little bit here, being 500 or less than 500 the last 10 games. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's clear right now.
Cool. All right. Just wanted to keep a pulse on that, like to get Rachel's mind, scratch Rachel's mind every once in a while about random topics when she doesn't expect it.
We will definitely record next week after the rest of this week's action and the weekend action, and then before I leave for my next international trip. So we'll be locked in here. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be locked in here these next few days, and just I feel like a lot's going to happen, and for us to be able to chat about next week. I want to see how these teams are shaping up after the break, from a chemistry standpoint, from a health standpoint. A lot to talk about.
And we'll be back next week. Peace.